Hello, everyone. My name is Igor Manko, and I'm here to tell you about the Kharkiv river. Kharkiv is a city in Ukraine, in case you don't know it. Actually, the second largest city in Ukraine. So the whole story began in the early 70s when eight courageous photographers um, created a group called Vremya. Vremya means time in English, and uh, apparently, they wanted their photography to be more contemporary than that of the other photographers. Um, this effort was to fight the prevailing dogma of socialist realism. And these eight people somehow managed to wriggle from under, if I can say so. This way they started was what later became to be known as the Kharkiv School of. But to start this, I want to start with a disclaimer. The Kharkiv School of Photography is not what you think of a school with classrooms, with blackboards, with dark rooms. Never happened in Kharkiv. It was rather a school of aesthetic thought where education happened in clubs and in coffee shops. At that time, there was a special culture of coffee shops in Kharkiv, where if you needed to meet someone, all you had to do is to know the coffee shop they frequented, and there is a very good chance that you saw that person when you came there. Photographers frequented a small coffee shop in the quiet street in the center of Kharkiv. And I still vividly remember coming to that photo shop and showing my prints to all the photographers, the Vremya Group photographers. And what I would do, I would create a table where I would put my work on the horizontal scale and different photographers' names on the vertical, and just noting what each of them said about this or that of my work. It continued, and surprisingly, 25 years later, I saw photographers of the younger generation coming to my door, as well as to other photographers showing their work to us. Happened not once. So this way, I could say that Kharkiv School of Photography was really a school where aesthetic thought was passed on and on. So I'm now going to share my screen with you. Just before the full-fledged war started in Ukraine, I completed a project called Kharkiv School of Photography, of course, which you can see here. Remember the address, asp.ui.org.ua. This is where you can find it in case you're interested. This site, I will guide you through. First, there's these slides with different aspects, with different ideas about it. As you see, it comprises over 2,000 images by 28 artists. Here's the list of artists in generation. And the first generation is exactly Big Brain Greek, except it's only six people because I have no information and I had no information and no images of the other two people. Then there is the second generation, the most populated list, and the third generation of. Apart from that, this site has 9 stories covering different aspects of the Harvard School of Photography, as you can see here. A number of videos where people talk about their art and how they managed it during the Soviet times, especially, as well as few exhibition opening. There are also texts by theoreticians about different aspects of photography. And we'll start with Boris Mikhailov, not because Boris Mikhailov was the most prominent photographer of all the group, but because his work was the beginning of what was later called the new aesthetic language of the Harvard School. This was called overlays. And the rumor goes that it was invented by Boris Mikhailov by chance. When he was looking at newly developed slide films, he accidentally put two of them together and saw through them. He was surprised by the new quality, the surreal nature of the image, and the opened possibilities. It happened in the early 70s, and when he fully recognized what we saw, he started pairing the images in two, and he showed his work once in a cafe after closing time for selected audience only. Um, a friend of mine, Vladimir Starkov, was there at the time to see that show played to the Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon music. He said, he was shocked when he saw it. He said he was like he was hit by a truck. Later, these works were printed using a regular process. Take a look at the picture. This technique was then used by two other photographers of the Lena group, namely Oleg Marovany and Vladimir Evgeny Pavlov. Here's some of Evgeny Pavlov's work. While Boris Mikhailov's overlays were socially acute, Pavlov's pictures more philosophical. So I like this one very much. Oleg Marovany was Oleg Marovany also used overlay techniques. He was the most lyrical artist, and please show this here. It is worth mentioning that Marovany was the only one of the 8 people of that group who managed to sell these pictures. This is one of my favorites. And this is Boris. We are moving on to Roman Petkovka's Soviet photo project. Soviet photo was a publication that lasted from the 20s to the beginning of the 90s. The only magazine for photographers, both professional and amateur. It was strictly censored, and there was no way Petkovka's voluptuous nudes would get onto the pages of Soviet photo. But still, it was a publication cherished by many photographers at the time. In 2012, Petkovka used scans of the pages of Soviet photo and overlaid them with his brutal nude pictures. It was late and bit obsolete use of the overlay technique. But in this token way, Petkovka was able to etch himself onto the pages of Soviet photo, even though 20 years later. This project, by the way, won him the first prize in conceptual photo Sony. Here was some. Okay, let's move on. Next goes a story about censorship in the Soviet Union. The subtitle of this project, by the way, is From Soviet Censorship to New Aesthetic. And until 1990, uh, KGB was interested in what photographers did and closely watched. You can see a 1st of May parade here, or maybe a 7th of November parade. And this was one of the things that were strictly prohibited from taking pictures of. Picture here in Boris Mikhailov Red series. Personally, the camera could be stopped in the street, used for spying. This is what happened not once. Boris Mikhailov's picture, you've seen it already, wasn't just a surrealistic image. Walls have ears. That's how his work was read in the 70s. And it wasn't an exaggeration. Oleg Zmadovan's The Bluebird of the 20 of the 200, made in 1971, is about food shortages in the USSR and something that didn't we openly discussed at the time. Malovan's story is about how he was followed by KGB sleuths. KGB people wanted to know how Malovany managed to get his images across the border. So they literally followed him to see how it happened. Boris Mikhailov was once kidnapped in the street and taken to KGB for interrogation. He was accused of pornography in his work. And he went to consult a prominent lawyer in Kharkiv at the time. The lawyer's words were, you know, every intelligent person knows this is not pornography, but you are not going to be sued by intelligent people. Mikhailov was fired from his job later when a search found photos of his nude wife in his dark. Alexander Suprun was famous for his collages. To get material for his photo montages, he used candid camera concealed in a shopping bag. The story about that is in the video section of this website, and you can take a look later. It will show the photo bag and how he used. Yevgeny Pavlov shot the Violence series in the early 70s. It showed nude young men who were hippies, and he said that after interrogating the KGB, he is on the verge of burning the negatives. Here's another series. In 1983, the Rema Group, and that was their last show, they tried to exhibit their work in a so-called House of Scientists. When the director saw what was to be exhibited, she was about to call the KGB, and only the quick removal of the works from the exhibition prevented further prosecution of the artists. While they were talking to the director and trying to persuade her not to close the show, they actually removed all the works. UV looping used a legal, I would say, hole as a smart provocation. It was said that the only neat pictures that could be photographed had to be photographed in natural circumstances. And that's what he did. He photographed these guys in a man's sauna. Even during the perestroika time, artists used to encounter problems when taking pictures and exhibiting ones. This work by Leonid Pesin, for example, is called 1984 after Orwell's novel, and was actually shot in the same year. It's a correctional facility for young criminals. To be able to take pictures there, Pesin had to pretend he was looking for a job as a photographer, and they tried to like a probation period for him when he had to take the photos. Of course, he never went to work there, but he saved the negatives and printed this work. When it was first shown in Moscow, it was a success. And after that, Pesin decided he could show them in Kharkiv as well. It was an open-air show where his pictures were among the others. And when top police department officer was passing by, he came to take a look at the pictures, immediately recognizing the face. He confiscated these pictures on the spot and told Pesin that he had to come to the office for explanations the next day. Pesin knew what was to come, so he and another photographer spent a night in his dock making copies of these negatives. So when the search came next morning, they, of course, took the negatives, but the rest of the things in the darkroom was safe, and they also saved a positive copy of the negative. These pictures are actually from that positive copy. Vladimir Starko took pictures at a train station, and he was stopped in the street. He was stopped by people who didn't like that he was taking photos, taken to the militia, and he had to spoil the film because of those images. In 1997 and 1987 and 1988, two grand exhibitions of Kharkiv photographers were closed just a few days after opening because of the pictures like this. In the video section of this website, Misha Pedan will tell if you're interested how it all happened and all the circumstances. Another story is about Boris Mikhailov's I Am Not I exhibition. It first happened in a private space called Up Down Gallery, uh, and afterwards, Boris tried to put it on the walls of the Kharkov Art Museum. And when the director of that museum came Monday morning to take a look at the pictures, she immediately closed the whole thing, and the exhibition never started. But the next year, this series started its triumphant march in the most renowned galleries and museums of the world. The story about the whole story about the art museum is told by its director again in the videos section of this website. Okay, guys, we're moving to another topic, which is hand coloring of black and white photos. And again, we start with Boris Mikhailov. Boris Mikhailov was the beginning of lots of techniques. And in the 1970s, Archive photographers produced what they call lyric. It was a commercial product and in fact an illegal business that helped photographers survive. Imagine a faraway village somewhere in the North Caucasus, like Pakistan, for example, favorite spot. There are no photographs available, nothing to say about color technique, and where people needed nice portraits of their families, of their friends, often post-mortem. So photographers would come to the villages and showing them rear and offering them to produce the same work for a bit of money, like this, for example. They would collect small photographs, take them back to uh, Kiev, where these photos were enlarged, colored manually, and laminated or even framed. This was the business. And in 1980s, Mikhailov conceptualized it, used it as form of his own art. Like in these photos, we can see the man who wanted to be pictured with Joseph Stalin. Here's the result. This couple, this couple, first they weren't sitting there with a mountain river in the background. More likely they were sitting on a bench some. This was typical. because here you can see the instruction of photography. Couple the women in protectors on her head with two people, the guy on the right and the guy on the left. Other instructions would be to add some hair, to break existing couples and produce a picture of a present impact couple. John P. Jacobs, writing about this project, said it was the first use of found material in the Soviet photography. This technique, not this, but the technique of coloring photos, was later used in the works of Victor Kachin. It was, again, a conceptual response to conventional black and white photo, and coloring of black and white images responded to the complete complexity and expansiveness of the color process. It was also, let me show the picture. It was kind of an illustration to the social realism, showing the brighter side of reality in an effort to change it by means of art. All the works of Portugal were hand colored. There was his kind of individual approach. Here you can see some. I specifically like his work that's here, that's called Hammering Down Spike. It combines the irony with um, the Soviet or Soviet realism dogma. Another artist using this technique was Igor Manko. First, we take a look at his Romanian. His friend at archive artist Sergei Schmat helped him draw on the pictures and colorized. He criticized the pomp of commercial art tastes, and these photos, as um, an art theoretician notes, were both um, they looked like mass-produced calendars and pornographic cards that were at that time sold in trains to passengers by supposedly dumb travelers. Later, Chursin produced a project that's called Ukrainian Mongolian folk art. This is one of the pictures from that series, Kama Sutra. But mainly, those based on hundreds of passport photos Igor Chursin had to take in the beginning of the 90s because Ukraine uh, got its independence in 1991, and many people needed new passports for their new national identity. So these are two great collages. And as you can see, there are lots of passport photos that he hand colored here. And unfortunately, we don't have a better quality image here, but one of these photos somewhere here, it's mine. Since I also needed a new passport, and I remember coming to Chursin's studio to get one. So now we move on, and we'll move on to the works of Evgeny Pavlov of the Remember. Through this project, montages of 89, 98, 96, and total photograph 1994 are of specific interest here because in these pictures, Evgeny Pavlov completely abandoned the idea of in a photograph showing things in the real way, so to say. He uses very technique that were what he could, like glitching on the emulsion of the negative, right here, using tearing down negatives. These were montages. I will not show you some so photographs. Collate is available. Some of these photos are found material, not some edited work. So that as you can see, there is no stopping it. Can be any possible technique here. I especially like the filter that's used here, only small, but it's a combination of two parts of negative, so to say, in one, and it's called self-portrait with a wife. Later, Pavlov produced three projects in cooperation with Vladimir Shapch. We'll look at one of the second level. They are huge floor-to-ceiling images containing different panels. As you see, there's no one big an image. And Shaposhnikov painted over the image Pavlov produced. Tatiana Pavlova, his wife, a theoretician as well, says there was no great place to exhibit this work in art, and when they finally decided to exhibit them in a small space of the municipal art gallery, the walls were covered, plastered with these images, wall to ceiling. The last artist I wanted to show you in this part of my talk is Roman Mini. Roman Mini is a prominent contemporary artist, famous for his graphics, stained glass work, sculpture works, bas-reliefs, and is exhibiting internationally. What we want to see here is his project Dreams About War, 2011. Imagine peaceful 2011 and Roman Mini suddenly produces this kind of artwork. What he says about this work himself, that one day he had a dream that there was war action in Kharkiv, and he woke up, he saw that nothing was wrong. So he took his camera, these are 6 by 6 centimeter negatives, went outside, took some pictures, and when he developed the film, he would use not markers and draw over the negatives of these images, draw the pictures of war. Meaning comes from Donbass area, and this may be the answer. This may be why he was so, how to say, clairvoyant about this work. It took several more years for these pictures to materialize in today's art. I said it would be the last part of on color technique, but I just remembered there's something else. The Shiva group and Radko Snashuk's negatives below. Radko Snashuk found these pictures again found material on the free market in art. And what he did, he just drew over the cabinet photos that he found. This way, Krasnashuk made a very interesting contribution to artist people photography. His works look like dadaist experiments or child's drawing exercise. But what he did, he made this approach of coloring photograph null and void. And there was, after these photos were made public, there was a heated discussion in photographers' so-called in Ukraine about alleged vandalism of his photo. The last topic for today, and again we start with Boris Mikhailov, is concept of bad photography. In the 80s, Boris Mikhailov came up with a concept of bad photography or bad reality. He maintained that high quality, glossy image was unable to depict Soviet reality. Instead, he suggested bad photography concept, small, sloppily printed black and white photos. They were blurred, low contrast with showing film effects and perforation. It was a tool of aesthetic and social critique. Irina Sandomir says, here you can see them. John P. Jacob said that only in art, under the guidance of Boris Mikhailov, did photographic conceptualism actually flourish. And until 1990, photographers in the USSR were hostile to universal photography conception. Later, Boris Mikhailov produced a project called Unfinished Dissertation, where he used the same principle, the same bad photos, with his notes, margins, like you see. The name came from the dissertation, the draft of the dissertation of his brother. He used the other side of the pages where his brother wrote the draft of the dissertation. It was ready in 84 and published as a book in 98. Here they are. What happened in the year 2013 was another illustration of how uh, younger photographers used uh, their predecessors' work for their own purposes. We are talking about the Shiva group again. In 2013, they produced what they called finished dissertation, the finished dissertation. What they did, they bought a book by Boris Mikhailov and they pasted their own images on top of Boris Mikhailov's images, leaving Boris's comments intact. Schiller Group was always considered with an anti-Weber of the Kharkiv School of Photography. This was their way to forcefully put themselves into the Kharkiv School of Photography in a token artistic gesture. They tried to show this work Boris Mikhailov, and he wasn't at all impressed by it, but they still used. So that's all for now. I've told you about the Kharkiv School of Photography. I only had to mention that this project was commissioned by the Ukrainian Institute's Ukraine Everywhere program. Remember the address once again, ksp.ui.org.ua. And if you find it interesting, you can always go here and look at other photographers because I only mentioned a few, as you can see. So to sum it up, what happened later? A few years ago, Sergei Lebedinsky of the Shiva started the Museum of Kharkiv Photography in Kharkiv. He was renovating the premises. He was collecting the pictures, physical prints now. And when the war started in Ukraine, the first days of the war, he managed to relocate all the collection of his work to Germany, where he's living now. And the exhibitions of Kharkiv photography have been displayed everywhere in Germany and in other countries of Europe. Well, that's all. Thanks for listening to me. I hope that's useful. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.